But I think ultimately what this comes down to is us being reminded of the greatness of the player that just got traded. This is a dude that's in his mid-30s whose numbers are better in his 30s than they were in his 20s.
I'm going to use Stephen A. Smith's comments to talk about something that I've already been wanting to talk about. This isn't about Durant as much as it is a look at numbers and how numbers just don't mean what they used to mean. Because Stephen A. Smith and others have said this exact same thing about LeBron James in order to claim that LeBron James is still that guy. Well, if it's true for everybody, then it doesn't make LeBron James special. It doesn't make Durant special. And if anything, it's an indictment of the NBA and that they've made scoring too easy or that everyone else just sucks. Like, which one is it? Let's start with Steph Curry. Even Steph Curry haters probably have to admit that he's a pretty talented basketball player. Well, look at Steph Curry during his first title, 2014-2015. His points per game were worse that season than they were this season. Let me nip an argument in the bud really quick that I'm sure LeBron fans are coming up with. They're like, oh, you're only looking at points per game. Well, you're looking at points per game when you make arguments for LeBron, so I'm going to look at points per game arguing against LeBron. And just to be clear, I'm going to cover the other categories as well. Do you remember anything particularly good about Steph or the Warriors in 2023 or 2024? No, but he scored more in those seasons than he scored when they won the title in 2022. Steph Curry is 37, so if we go backwards on his career timeline, you see that he is basically scoring as much now as he was in his 20s. So what Stephen A. Smith just was amazed by about Kevin Durant is also true of Steph Curry. Where this becomes a problem is when you ask yourself, are all of these different people that I'm going to list defying the odds and doing things that are mind-blowing? Or is the game changing to allow these sorts of numbers? And if it turns out that the second one is true, then how can we be so impressed with these numbers? Jimmy Butler, who is now 35, looks like he's scoring as much, if not more, in his 30s than his 20s. Jokic, granted he only recently turned 30, but you see that he is steadily going upward with his points per game, as is also the case with Giannis. Paul George is an interesting one to look at. He's fallen out of favor with people for good reason, but nevertheless, he is 35, and if we look at his seasons in his 30s, there's only one season in his 20s that stands out, 2018-2019, that he scored more than when he was in his 30s. Mike Conley, at age 37, just helped gentleman sweep LeBron James right out of the playoffs, and Mike Conley's years in his 30s are as good as or better than his early years. Let's go back to Jokic for a moment. As great as he is, many people say, well, he doesn't really compare to the bigs of the old days. That may be true, but whether it's true or not, his numbers are going to destroy the bigs of the past. So once again, we have to ask, do today's numbers really mean what they once meant? Finally, we come to LeBron James, and I'm going to throw a few numbers out that you might find interesting. Last year, 23-24, he scored more than he scored when they won the bubble per game. In 22-23, he scored more per game than he did in the 2017-2018 season, which is a season that many fanboys claim was his ultimate season. LeBron James was just different. In 21-22, not a very nice year for LeBron James and the Lakers. Nevertheless, he scored more in that season than in the season when the Cleveland Cavaliers, quote, won the 2016 title. He had more points per game in both 2022 and 2023 than when he, quote, unquote, led the Cavaliers to the 2007 finals. He scored more points per game in 2021 than in the seasons that he was given league MVP. More than in the seasons when the Heatles carried him to 2012, 2013 titles that he falsely was given finals MVP. Fanboys, do you really believe that these most recent seasons from LeBron James, he is a better basketball player than in those previously mentioned seasons that you glorified him? He's better than those glorified seasons? I think what really bothers me is that at the end of the season, when LeBron James is prematurely eliminated despite having advantages and despite being predicted to go further, the media turns around and starts telling everyone, well, he's still the top player, one of the top players in the league. He's top 5, top 2. Hell, I might even put him at number 1. They did it again this season. I got to ask you, how? How? He's not in the top 10 in scoring. He's not in the top 20 in rebounding. He's not in the top 5 in assists. In the top 50 in steals. He's not in the top 50 in blocks. He's not in the top 50 in three-pointers made. He's not in the top 25 in field goal percentage. He was, however, in the top 5 in turnovers. How does all of that somehow equate to him being still a top 5, top 2, top 10 player even in the NBA right now? You know, for a fan base that loves to praise numbers when it comes to longevity, you sure do ignore numbers when it comes to present reality. So let's bring this back to Steph Curry to be fair and show that I'm willing to criticize his numbers as well and question whether Steph Curry at this ripe age is actually better than he used to be. But where there's a difference is in their game, in their bag, in ways that you can say, yeah, Steph Curry can still do this and Steph Curry can still do that. Well, LeBron James can still jump high. He can still run over people, and he can still get away with traveling and offensive fouls and go to the free throw line more than he should be going. I know what you're going to say. He got his 3-point percentage up. It was more of an indictment that nobody cared anymore if he shot three-pointers. So the wide open shots eventually creeped up, and just for one season. Let's bring it back to this show and KD for a moment, because they said that KD shot 49% on jumpers last season. That's actually pretty good. And here's what makes that different. Kevin Durant is a near 7-footer who can rise up and shoot a jumper, which means he's lethal from a lot of places. LeBron James depends upon barreling to the rim, getting a lob, or getting bailed out to have a high shooting percentage. And he still wasn't top 25 in the league. Now, I'm not saying that Kevin Durant is better now than he was when he was younger, but presenting something like a jump shot and improving that part of your game is a better measurement if you wanted to make that sort of an argument. But again, we've got to look at how the game has changed and all the advantages that have been given to offensive players when we talk about something like that, even if it is a jump shot. So let's hear from you. What do you think? Are these 30-year-olds, even late 30-year-olds, LeBron, the 40-year-old, them scoring more now than they used to? Does that mean that they're just that amazing? Or does it indicate something that has changed in the game? And when it comes to LeBron James, do some math for me, please. Help me understand how he can be a top 5 to number 1 player in the league right now when he isn't a leader in a single major statistical category, not even top 50 in most, only breaking top 5 in turnovers. Somehow 2 + 2 = 10 in his case.